Hi, I'm Ian Farley, CEO of Eagle Business Credit, and welcome to The Money Factor. Today we're going to be talking about a subject that every business knows about, or should know about, invoicing. All right, I'm joined here today by Angela Reese, my head of operations here at Eagle, and we're going to be talking about some of the issues that people run across that we see with our clients with regard to invoicing, maybe some common mistakes that they make, but really some top tips on what to do to really have a good invoice so that you get paid. We see this all the time. We deal with clients across a wide range of industries, and Angela and I have got many years of experience looking at different sorts of industries from different sorts of clients to their customers. So again, it's our bread and butter on a daily basis. So hopefully these are going to be some useful tips. Angela, tell us a little bit about some of the things you think a client should always have on their invoice.
Some of the key things that you need to have are a unique invoice number, invoice date.
Yep.
You want to have who it's billed to, proper name of the company, proper address. If there's an email address of where you're sending the invoice, it's nice to have that on there as well. You definitely want to have the invoice terms, and the due date is also helpful.
Right.
What do the invoice terms mean? Net 30 days from date of receipt, or net 30 days from date of the invoice. You also want to list out the types of services or product that's being sold to your customer. It's best to have that detailed out, and you need to refer back to a purchase order that the company has issued to you. And in that purchase order, there may be specific terms or items that the customer is requiring you to detail out in the invoice. So you want to have that. And then finally, the amount that's due from your customer.
Seems easy, but often people can forget one or more of those things. You can use QuickBooks or any kind of accounting system nowadays to produce an invoice, a nice looking invoice. Yes. So the actual ability to produce it is not an issue. It should be easy, but you've got to make sure that all of those things are in there. And we see many invoices that just say 30 days. Well, 30 days from what? Is it receipt of goods? Is it date of order? Is it date of invoice?
Yeah.
Seems obvious, and you're in a rush to get that invoice issued. You might miss some of the real simple stuff, like Angela just mentioned, that ultimately could mean that you have a problem. Your invoice could get rejected by your customers. Say if they have a PO requirement, right? The POs typically will tell the seller exactly what they need to do, right? We see that a lot.
Yes.
So again, look at your PO. If you don't have a PO, contact your customer, get the right contact information. You don't want your invoice going to the wrong person. Maybe they've got multiple offices and AP, accounts payable, is in one place, and you sent it to the place where the goods went. Again, common stuff.
Something else to think about is if you get a purchase order from your customer and it's for a specific amount and you end up billing it for more than that purchase order amount, don't just raise your invoice to where it doesn't match your purchase order.
Right.
You want to make sure you go and get the proper change orders that may be necessary in order to get that invoice paid. Otherwise, your invoice will get kicked back because it doesn't tie out to the purchase order that was issued.
Exactly. That's a really key point, and we do see that. The number of times an invoice can get rejected, and sometimes just not rejected, but just not paid.
Yeah.
And we'll make calls and say, hey, have you got this invoice in your system? And it could be a few days down the road, 2 weeks after the goods have been delivered or the service has been performed, and unbeknown to everybody, an information was missing on the invoice. So again, some real simple things to remember.
Yep.
And once you get into a pattern of making sure that your invoices have that quality information on them, you'll find, whether you factor or not, you'll find you get paid better.
Yes.
The last thing we want for any of our clients is to have an invoice that's delayed because of something simple that could have been done when the invoice was issued. All right, so you've got it down. You know what to put on an invoice. That's great. But what do you do now? You've sold the goods. You've completed the service. When should you send the invoice? Who should you send it to? Angela, tell us some of the stuff that our audience and our clients need to remember in terms of sending their invoices out.
As soon as you finish your services or ship your product, you should bill the customer immediately.
Yeah.
Any delays in that is going to delay your entire payment process. And you want to make sure that when you do send that invoice out, you're sending it the proper way. So does the customer require you to mail a physical copy of the invoice? Or are you able to send them an email copy of the invoice? Go ahead and take care of that so you can get those payments immediately. So if you're going to invoice your customers for any late fees that may be due on the invoice, make sure those late fees are clearly identified on the invoice itself.
And that's going to be in their terms and conditions, right? So if the payment is beyond 30 days late, some sellers will charge you an extra percentage or 1.5 points.
Yes.
So that kind of thing. But it's got to be in their terms and conditions.
It has to be in
order
their
for them
terms
to
and conditions, and you need to make sure, it's a good idea that most people will put that on the bottom of the invoice copy somewhere.
Yeah.
The other key thing to have is you want to make sure that your customers know where to send those payments. So do you want payments to come to you electronically, or do you want them to mail you the payments?
Right.
Make sure that information is clearly visible on the invoice to where they should remit those payments.
It's a really key point. Make it easy for your customer to pay you. Don't have them wonder, should I send it to this address or what? Usually you can put some information on a box at the bottom. It's a field you can pre-populate and have as a standard field. Maybe you'll accept payment by credit card, in which case you can give them a website address to go to. Or if it's an electronic invoice, sometimes those will have a hot link on them so they can click it and get paid by card right away, or by bank account debit, either electronic way. But again, make it easy for them to pay, and you'll find that a lot of companies just want to pay your invoice and don't want to have to work out where to send the check or what to do with it, right?
Yes. And also don't assume that they're going to pay you by electronic method.
Right.
Some companies don't choose that method, and they want to make sure they have a check that they can mail you. So it's always good to check with the accounts payable department of the company you're dealing with to ensure that you understand how you're going to get paid.
Right. And nowadays we're seeing more and more people that don't actually issue a physical invoice anymore, and maybe they don't even do an emailed invoice. Maybe they're doing it via a portal. Is that right? We're seeing quite a few of those come through. Usually with larger customers, and maybe they dictate the terms under which the seller has to use their portal to get paid. So it's really important to understand from your customer how they want to be billed. They maybe refer back to that PO, maybe they've got some details in there, but also have your terms and conditions of sale as well. So if you've given them 30 days to pay and their terms are something different, understand that, because you don't want any conflict with them.
Yes.
But really important, like Angela said, to get that invoice issued as soon as the sale has been completed, whether the goods have been delivered or that service has been performed. Don't wait. You're just waiting longer to get paid. All right, so we've talked about how to create your invoice, how to send it. Some common mistakes we see a lot, unfortunately. And so we can talk with some experience about some situations that we've seen with our clients. But let's hit maybe some common reoccurring mistakes that we see.
Some common things that I see our clients run into is they don't follow up with accounts payable to make sure that they've actually received their invoice and everything was billed out properly on that invoice. If you don't reach out, especially if it hits day 40 and you still haven't reached out and your payment is late.
But it's okay to actually call them before it's due, right?
It is okay to call them, and it's highly recommended.
Yeah.
Some companies will have a portal where you can go on and see that your invoice is in there and set up in the payment processing, in the queue for payment. Other companies, you need to call, and they don't mind you calling because they want those invoices so they can make those payments promptly, so it's not sitting on their books.
Right.
Simple things like not putting the specific details that are required in the invoice body per the PO that you have will cause a payment delay.
Right.
Not having the invoice amount match the purchase order amount will also cause a payment delay.
Exactly. And I think that's really key. So we've talked about how to create your invoice and make sure those details are correct. You won't get paid if there's something obvious missing. So don't be afraid to make an after-sales call. And it can be to the person that you worked with, the buyer, but it can also be to, speak to that person about, well, who's going to handle processing of the invoice for me? If you didn't know before you made the sale, now's the time to find out, because you want to make sure that invoice goes through their process and their system very smoothly. And again, eradicating mistakes is one way to do it. Don't overcomplicate it for them either. So, we've seen people put complicated payment process information on their invoices, and really they shouldn't, right?
They should, and they should keep it simple. I mean, you only need the basic details.
Yeah.
And that will get your invoice paid. Also remember that when you do send your invoices to, some companies may have different levels where the invoice have to go to.
Yep.
And you may have to send it to a project manager first in order to get their approval, and then they submit the invoice through to accounts payable. So in those cases, it's very good to call and make sure that that project manager has done his job, approved the invoice, and sent it to accounts payable for payment. Otherwise, it could sit there for a long time until you make that phone call.
And some of these people are super busy. You can imagine they've got stacks of emails and printed invoices. Maybe they came in with the goods. You just want to get to the top of their pile, and you want to do it in a way that, creates good feeling between you and your customer, because you want a repeat sale. So again, don't be put off by just making a call and saying, everything okay? Got the invoice? Wonderful. Anything you need from me? Any questions? That kind of thing. It's not a demand or a collection call. It's merely just after sales. Look at it that way. And it's your opportunity or their opportunity to tell you as the seller, you got the PO number wrong, or what are the terms again? Whatever they need to know in order to get your invoice into their system so that you can get paid. Again, don't worry about making that call. So some examples, some instances of invoicing mistakes. We see hundreds of invoices a day, so we could give you lots of examples, but the one I'm thinking of is in the staffing sector. We've had a number of clients there, and we love staffing clients. We can really provide a great cash flow benefit in that sector. But specifically, we've seen some issues with a couple of clients and their invoicing, right? Can you think of the one I'm thinking of?
Yes.
Okay.
So when you bill out your invoicing, you want to make sure you're billing for the proper type of services and time of services that were provided.
The hours.
So you have your timesheets. You want to make sure you calculate those hours properly for each day they work, and you want to have it clearly billed out on the invoice and easily identifiable to the customer. Not only that, if they have overtime hours that are billed out, most customers like to see that as a separate line item because you are charging them a time and a half rate.
Right.
So you have to be very careful and meticulous when it comes to calculating those hours, because unless you have something that is digital or electronic, where it's automatically calculating the number of hours that were worked, there's a lot of manual process to that. And if you're not careful, you'll make mistakes, your invoices will get rejected, and if you don't call and find out why your invoice wasn't paid, you're not going to find out until way late in the process.
And that's just one sector that we deal with. So again, if you're in the staffing sector, if you've got an electronic system so that it all flows through and your invoice is cut based on that information, then wonderful. But if not, you're going to be relying on the quality of that timesheet. Was it signed off? And making sure that your AP clerk has got that information into your invoice. And not just the number of hours, but was it at the right rate? So if there's some overtime hours, like Angela was saying, it's very easy to make a mistake. Worst case scenario, your invoice gets rejected, and now you've got to issue a credit memo or redo the whole invoice for your customer. And, it just delays things for you to get paid. And all of this information and issue can be resolved by a little bit more upfront work and, again, a meticulous approach to issuing those invoices. So, again, the detail is where you need to focus. So, invoice factoring, we deal with invoices every day. It's what we do. We advance funds on your accounts receivable. So we can really help you improve your process and point out some areas that maybe you need to look at. One of the underwriting things that we have to consider is the invoices themselves, obviously, and the customer terms and whether there's a purchase order required. We want to understand your business and make sure that those invoices are going to get paid just as much as you do. So we see a lot of different examples. I'm thinking some of the clients that we look at, when you look at an invoice, Angela, and when you look at clients in different industry sectors, what are the first things you go to?
The first thing I'll look at is, what are the terms?
Yeah.
Show me the purchase order, show me the contract.
Right.
I'll review that, and then I compare it to the invoice that's actually raised.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at that, I'm looking for, was the work that was performed or billed for actually included in the purchase order or the contract?
Right.
What are the pricing, what's the price or agreed upon price that your customer and yourself have agreed upon?
Yep.
What are the invoice terms? Is that clearly identified on your invoice?
Mm-hmm.
Do you reference your contract number or your purchase order number on the invoice? You want to make sure all these things are visible, otherwise it will create issues
Right.
on the back end of trying to collect. If you're factoring your invoices, we will take all that information, review it, and if we spot any errors, we will identify that to you, make suggestions on how you can improve your invoice so that you can get your payments faster. And if there is an obvious error, we will get you to rebill it before it's actually sent out to the customer so that we can get paid faster.
So you're going to get access to an expert like Angela and her team here at Eagle who are going to review all these things for you. And you may have been doing business with a customer for quite some time and maybe they're paying you around 60 days and you can't figure it out why. A fresh set of eyes maybe will reveal something that you could do differently that's real simple. And even if you choose not to sign up with us, we're happy to look through this stuff. Obviously, we want you on board. We want to help you and provide the financing that will be beneficial to you. But again, if you choose not to proceed, we will have gone through that process and maybe talk to you about the nature of your billing, how you handle it now, and the kind of issues that you run into. And having that expert, and she really is, many years of experience looking at these things, just talking to you about how you do it, is invaluable. And again, you can have a takeaway there that will perhaps help you with your customer relationship and grow your business anyway. So again, we are invoice experts. It's what we do. And we're here to help you ultimately, whether you sign up with us or not. We can help you if you sign up. We'll provide you with a great smooth cash flow finance facility. But in the event you just want to talk to us about your invoicing, give us a call.
Also, as part of the factoring service, we will actually reach out to your customers and chase for payment. So that's something that you don't have to do on your part. We will do that for you.
That's a valid point.
And a lot of times we'll reach out within a couple of weeks of raising the invoice just to verify they have everything set up for payment, so there are no delays.
Right.
We have seen several instances with some of our clients who were experiencing 90-day pay because they simply weren't doing the proper steps that we've identified here today and making sure that they get their invoices paid faster. And we've been able to turn that 90-day pay into a 30-day pay.
Exactly.
And for us, that is a success.
It is. And remember, we're not a collections company. A lot of people get concerned about that. Really, all we're doing is ledger management, receivables management.
Yep.
We are going to help you by taking the burden of following up on your invoices off your hands. And you can free up a member of staff that maybe did that previously to do other things to help you grow. Or if you didn't have somebody doing that previously, well, now you've got the added benefit of making sure somebody's here working on your behalf, just getting the information from your customer's AP. It's a real soft call to say, do you have invoice number 123 in the system? Is it approved yet? When have you got it scheduled for payment? That's the kind of call we make.
Yes.
People get concerned about that, but they really don't need to. It's all part of the service. We have hundreds of customers with thousands of their customers that we deal with, and they're very familiar with what a factor does. And it's, again, all part of the process to make sure those invoices are going to get paid on time. Well, thank you, Angela. I think that was hopefully very useful for everybody. Hope you enjoyed this episode of The Money Factor. Again, we could go on for hours about invoicing, so again, give us a call. Reach out to us online if you've got questions, #TheMoneyFactor, eaglebusinesscredit.com, and we'll see you next time on The Money Factor.